This is our second week in a series of webinars that are intended to help you make it through the holiday season in the healthiest way possible. If you tuned in last week, you learned all about how to eat more mindfully this time of year, and I hope you had an opportunity to exercise some of the ideas I shared and are feeling successful now that we got through Thanksgiving, the holiday with maybe the most food of all. This week, we are talking about stress and how you can stress less and enjoy this time of year as much as possible. And when you think about it, stress plays a big part in how much we eat and what we eat. So if we can manage stress, we can probably eat more mindfully as well. So everything is really connected. Before we focus on holiday stress, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture of stress in general. Stress is the body's reaction to change. Stress can be brought on by positive changes like the birth of a baby, getting a new job, or marriage, all milestone events that are usually associated with happiness. Then, stress can be brought on by other events that are not associated with happiness, the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, a relationship breaking down. What we often overlook are the chronic stressors, the day-to-day issues we encounter that cause us to say, "I'm so stressed out." Things like traffic, thinking of what to make for dinner, and managing household chores. While none are huge life events, they are often what weigh us down the most. We know that stress is something that should be minimized because it is associated with a variety of health concerns, both chronic and acute. It is reported that anywhere from 70 to 90% of all visits to a primary care physician are stress-related. So, the next time you have a headache, an upset stomach, or a cold that won't go away, do a self-check on stress and see if that is the culprit. Simply put, stress can really damage our health and well-being, both physically and emotionally, so it is important to be proactive and manage and reduce the stressors we encounter. One thing we can all relate to is a routine that has been disrupted. Most people thrive off predictability. Even spur-of-the-moment people who on the surface don't seem affected by any kind of change in plans most likely experience some kind of stress when their routine is out of sorts. And the holidays offset our routines, which is a great source of stress. Between time away from work, school being out, travel, and seeing family, it's no wonder we find ourselves stressed this time of year. When our routines are out of order, we eat, drink, exercise, and sleep differently than usual, and that can cause not just stress, but break down our immunities, which causes other health problems. A little further into the webinar, I will talk about how to better manage a disrupted routine, but know that it is common and normal for this to be a source of stress this time of year. So what do we know about holiday stress? We know that stress increases during the holidays, and that it often impacts women more than men. Or at least women are reporting stress at a higher rate than men. Some believe this is because women traditionally shoulder more of the burden of shopping and hosting and cooking and organizing the holiday schedule, more so than men. Due to the commercialization of the holiday season, we find that stress is higher in the lower to middle income households with the pressure to provide in addition to making ends meet. So on top of general financial stress, the holidays add another layer of worry about having enough money. We know that emotions can range from extremely excited to down and out this time of year, making it emotionally exhausting for a lot of people. And when people who don't enjoy the holidays are surrounded by those that do, it can create a lot of tension. Piggybacking off last week's topic of mindful eating, we see an increase in comfort eating and a decrease in physical activity during the holidays. We know that the food we use to fuel our bodies is directly connected to how much energy we have, and that is connected to how much activity we get. Exercise happens to be one of the best stress relievers around, but when we have fallen off the workout wagon of sorts, it can be very difficult to get back on track, especially when your calendar is full of other obligations that involve food and drink. So in essence, it kind of becomes a catch-22. You need to exercise to relieve stress, but you're so stressed and maxed for your time, you can't fit exercise into your routine. And to top that, you're eating more and outside your typical eating routine, making the need for exercise even greater. And finally, well, we all wish it would, work stress does not disappear just because we have more things going on in our personal lives. In fact, it might actually increase because of the time off the calendar, because of the time of the calendar year and the number of people, including yourself, you might be taking time away from work. So next I'm going to walk you through the 3 stressors that peak during the holiday season, and the first is lack of time. So time is what we want most, but often what we use worst. I always say that you will never find time hiding in a closet or under the bed, so the saying, I can't find the time to fill in the blank with whatever you want to find the time to do, should be changed to I'm trying to save time for, or I'm setting aside time to. Because we know every day has the exact same number of hours, minutes, seconds. We can't add any time to our day. But what we can do is manage or maybe organize our time more wisely. So what is taking up all our precious time between Thanksgiving and the New Year? It will vary for everyone, but my best guess is an increased number of social get-togethers, whether they are holiday gift exchanges at work, a happy hour or 2 after work, or a full day with extended family. Add to that any preparation you need to do for those occasions, and time quickly slips away. Unfortunately, when social commitments pile up, the first thing that often goes out the window is self-care. Eating healthy, your fitness routine, having some time to yourself. Self-care is so important this time of year, but how can you manage to find the time for that on top of everything else? And that's a big question, but the good news is I have a solution to share. And that solution, while it might be easier said than done, is to prioritize. So give yourself the gift of prioritizing. It might be the greatest gift you can give yourself this time of year. Make a list and check it twice for the things that are most important. While it is likely that you cannot eliminate ongoing responsibilities, it might be possible to modify them. Let's say you have a standing appointment with a networking group or a social group each week. If you need to step away from that for the time being, you can always resume when things settle down. Maybe you feel weighed down by shuttling kids between activities, but you really want to attend a social gathering with colleagues. Perhaps you can ask for help with one in order to do the other. If you find that you don't enjoy going to certain social events, it is okay to decline politely. No can be a complete sentence. It really is no one's business what else you might be doing that is keeping you away from something that doesn't serve you, especially if all it does is add stress to your life and take you away from what really matters. So my biggest advice with regards to prioritizing is that you keep communication channels open. So anyone in your workplace or family or circle of friends who are going to be impacted by the things you are or aren't doing are given fair warning. And to help you get started on prioritizing, here are 3 things you can do. The first is make a list of everything you have going on, from what you have going on at work to what you have going on in your social circle, to family, to your typical routine, whatever it is that will need your time and attention, make a list and kind of review it. And then after that list is made, identify which things on the list are most important and identify which are most urgent. So what needs to be attended to, what you absolutely can't let go of. And then third, identify what you can let go of or decommit to that will make your life less stressful. So just, prioritizing starts with making that list and then going through the list and identifying what's important, what's urgent, and what's not really that important, what you can let go of in order to stress less this time of year. The next holiday stressor we're going to talk about is money. So money is always listed as a top cause of stress for individuals, no matter how much or how little they have, and regardless of what time of year it is. During the holidays, there is added pressure to provide, which can cause stress for most people. While it is probably a no-brainer why money causes stress, this time of year it might not be as obvious how you can keep financial stress at bay. A lot of people make decisions with their emotions and not their heads. Whether it's buying the perfect gift, traveling to accommodate or appease family, or crafting the perfect holiday dinner, everything adds up. One thing you can do is set a budget for the month of December, and that includes what you will spend on travel, food, and gifts. And speaking of gifts, sometimes gift lists can grow to an extent that you find you're never done shopping. Even if money isn't a source of stress or a shortage for you, it might not be necessary to buy something for everyone in your family or circle of friends. If money is a source of concern, you can be honest with those you typically give to, and they will likely understand. Kind of like how it affects our food choices, social media can also affect our spending habits. So now is not the time to subscribe to a list of coupons from your favorite stores or browse shopping websites. Even something that you get a good deal on is money you might not have spent otherwise. And beware of online shopping. It is so easy for websites to target you, and then when your credit card information is saved, it becomes even easier for you to just make that purchase somewhat mindlessly and with your emotions. And then lastly, commercialization. So this one kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about in regards to spending in social media and the pressure of selecting the perfect gift. One thing you can consider this time of year is giving the gift of an experience or giving the gift of your time. I know we just talked about how little time we seem to have, but what if the energy and time you spent driving to different stores or browsing different websites was time spent doing something fun and less costly with someone you would normally purchase a gift for? Having a special movie night, either in the theater or at home, going ice skating or sledding, going to a museum, an athletic event, they're all experiences that might be more memorable than a toy or clothing that will eventually wear out its welcome. So just kind of think about that this time of year. Is there something you can do to make the holidays less commercialized and more of an experience for you and your loved ones? Now that we know that lack of time, money, and commercialization are the top causes of stress this time of year, I want to move on and talk about how we know when we're stressed. And this is something I refer to as your personal check engine light. So we all know what the check engine light means in a car. Either it's time for a tune-up or there's something that has gone wrong and you should pay attention and probably pull over and get it fixed. So the same really goes for our bodies. Knowing what your personal check engine light is really critical to reducing and managing stress. And what I mean by what your personal check engine light is how do you know when you've had enough or when your stress is too much? So this varies across all people, but it might be that you notice physical changes like a headache, a stomach ache, your hair, skin, or nails are breaking out. Maybe it's a change in appetite or a change in motivation. A lot of times other people notice what your check engine light is or can see it going off before you do. Maybe it's your attitude and how you react and respond to those around you. A lot of times that changes when we are under pressure or stress. So the first thing you really need to be aware of is what are your indicators that you need to modify something or perhaps many things to reduce stress. Acknowledging that you're stressed and then identifying what is causing the stress are really the first steps. And then once you know you have stress, hopefully you can tap into that personal check engine light before you reach a point of no return. You can start applying some different techniques that might be helpful. So what I'm going to share next are some ideas that you might want to consider, especially this time of year. The first is just reaching out. I think it's hard for a lot of people to ask for help, whether it's at work or at home. But we all could use a hand, so it's okay to reach out and seek someone to help you through whatever is causing stress. It might be as simple as asking your spouse to cook dinner or a neighbor to pick up your kids. It might be much more formal help too, like reaching out to EFR, your EAP provider, which I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit. But just asking for help, thinking about help as a help button and not a panic button. So kind of getting ahead of really what's causing a lot of stress and problems by reaching out. Being realistic. So what is it that you can do this time of year and what is it that you really can't do? So if need be, decommit from things that you don't find helpful or enjoyable and be realistic with what you can do, because a lot of times the stress of kind of the expectations we put on ourselves for having unrealistic expectations is the worst thing this time of year. Scaling back. So this kind of goes hand in hand with being realistic. And as I mentioned earlier, it might be scaling back on gift giving or a number of social events you attend, but whatever it is that is causing your check engine light to go off, think about, can it be minimized? So can you reduce the stressors around you by scaling back on commitments or spending, whatever it might be, but just kind of drawing back this time of year. And identifying a budget will hopefully help manage any financial stress and lead you into the new year without a lot of debt. Even if you've already started your shopping, it's not too late to budget. We still have about a month left before the big holiday hits. So just making sure that you have a budget in mind, and if you are putting things on credit cards, knowing how long it's going to maybe take to pay those off. Planning ahead. So regardless of what's going on in your life, it's almost always helpful to plan in advance. While there are a lot of things we can't plan for, there are many we can. So it might be planning meals, planning when you're going to exercise, how you're getting places, or planning for some self-care, some alone time. But they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So just thinking about everything you have going on and making a plan for it and trying to get ahead of whatever might cause you the stress. Just say no. We know that no is a complete sentence. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? You can say no politely. It might be difficult, but it is possible. It's something you have to exercise, and over time you'll get much better at. Say no or no thank you within reason, of course, is something that can really help reduce your stress. Taking time for self-care, so whatever it is that you enjoy, make that a priority and plan for it. So for some people, they really thrive off of social events and being around others, and for them that is kind of self-care, but for others they need alone time. They need to kind of withdraw. And so whatever it is that serves you and brings you up, gives you energy, take the time for that, plan for it. Be realistic with how often you can do it, but make sure to fit that in this time of year. And then lastly, using your EAP benefit, which is something that I'll talk about at the end of the webinar today, but Employee and Family Resources offers a variety of services that can help you stress less, regardless of if it's the holidays or not. One thing I want to touch on is when holiday stress becomes too much and for whatever reason leads to something more serious. So as I mentioned when we began our webinar, there are people who love the holidays and there are people who really struggle this time of year. Holiday depression is real and many people experience it. So what contributes to the holiday blues, or so they're called? It differs for everyone, but being away from family or friends, having experienced a loss and facing that grief during a time when you otherwise might have been with that person, change in family status like a marriage or divorce, having unrealistic expectations. Those are just a few reasons people don't always feel great this time of year. So maybe you don't feel this way, but you probably know people who do. So even if someone hasn't come out and said, I'm depressed, or this time of year is not fun for me, you might notice a change in their behavior or mood. So it's just important to keep in mind that this isn't always a jolly time of year for everyone. Not to take it personally if your enthusiasm is not matched by those around you, but do what you can to help them and lift them up. Especially if it's someone in your household. Those individuals have access to the EAP benefit that I'll be sharing in a moment. So just be aware of whether it's the way you're feeling or someone you're close to is feeling. It's normal for this time of year not to be the best time for everyone. So if you are experiencing holiday depression, here are some things that you might want to consider doing to help you get through it. The first is, spend time with people who care about you. So no matter how lonely you feel, there are people who care about you, and there are most likely people you can spend time with. So, even if it's a phone call or you're using a FaceTime or another app to connect with someone, making that connection with someone who cares and that brings you up is really important. And there are people out there that care about you and that you can spend time with. Volunteering. So another way to connect with others is through volunteering. There are many opportunities this time of year to give back to your community, whether it's a school, church, or an organization you stand with. Giving your time to a cause that you believe in or a group of people you want to uplift can be just as beneficial to you as it is them. We know that volunteering really makes people feel a lot better. Appreciate the good you have now. So just kind of being mindful of the present moment, which can be difficult, but so important to do. So instead of thinking back to how things used to be or what you no longer have, focus on what you have today in this moment and be grateful for that. Even if it is something as minuscule as you made it to work on time or you were able to pay a bill, acknowledge what it is and appreciate it for what it's worth. As I've mentioned many times throughout the webinar today and last week, you can never go wrong with a daily dose of exercise and maintaining a healthy diet. We know that physical activity releases endorphins, which make us feel better. We know that the foods we eat when they're healthier make us feel better. So if you're struggling this time of year, it can be very tempting to turn to comfort foods and just kind of, staying in, but getting fresh air, getting your body moving, and eating healthy is really important. Accept your feelings of sadness and loneliness for what they are, and be okay with it. That's sometimes one of the most difficult things to do. So accept the way you feel and just say, I'm okay that I don't feel great today. There's a saying that goes, it's okay to not be okay. Life is messy and complicated, and not feeling happy all the time is normal. When you find that your feelings are causing health problems, relationship problems, or getting in the way of your job or doing the things you enjoy, then it's time to reach out for help, and that is where your EAP can be really helpful. So as a reminder, Employee and Family Resources is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We answer our phones. Simply call our 800 number, which is listed below, and you will speak with a licensed clinician who will listen to whatever it is you have to say, and they will identify the best resources for you and get you the help you need. So one great benefit to your EAP is the in-person counseling. So this could be for interpersonal relationships, children. I know a lot of times people struggle this time of year if they have blended families and people are split up. But whatever it is that you need, call us and we will help direct you to the appropriate service. And this is a benefit that is available to anyone in your household. So keep that in mind as well. Also, it's confidential, so we're not going to report back to your employer that you called us. We maintain confidentiality when you call, and that holds a lot of people back because they're not sure if their employer will find out, but I guarantee that they won't. So make sure you reach out to us if you're feeling stressed or if you feel like you or someone in your household could really use support this time of year. So hopefully you've gained some insights into how you can reduce or manage stress. Next week, we are going to be talking about healthy holiday relationships, which is a big source of stress this time of year. So whether you're spending the holidays alone or with an abundance of people, relationships can be difficult to navigate this time of year, and we are here to provide ideas to help you get through it. So thanks again for joining me today, and hope to have you dial in next week.